Hello, and thanks for listening to your SCAMLE's exclusive podcast, ExplorED. On these episodes, you will enjoy exclusive interviews with some names you recognize and some people you'll be meeting for the first time. In each of our episodes, we will ask you to think and grow and reflect as a professional educator. If you aren't yet a member of SCAMLE, we encourage you to join today. More information can be found at www.scamle.org. There, find out more information about membership, conferences, and professional development opportunities. And don't forget to join us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. My name is Sarah Evanson Atkinson, and I serve as the Professional Development Director for your SCAMLE. I am an educator of 21 years and a past SCAMLE president as well.
In this episode of the ExplorED podcast, I had the opportunity to sit and chat with Dr. Robin Coltrane. While she does have an impressive list of achievements, accolades, and credentials, she is first a human being. Sometimes we forget that our educational leaders, principals, assistant principals, and the like are people with families, favorite movies, and hobbies that fill their souls, just like the rest of us. Now, maybe more than ever, we must check on our leaders to see how they are doing too. My personal takeaway from our time together was simply that we have to continue to conjure innovative ways to care for each other when too many outside forces are working overtime to divide us. Please welcome Dr. Robin Coltrane to the podcast. All right, so we are here today, and I'm going to let her introduce herself in just a minute, but we're here with Dr. Robin Coltrane. First of all, Dr. Coltrane, welcome aboard.
Thank you. I'm so happy to be here. Thank you for having me.
Please introduce yourself to our listeners of ExplorED. So this is Dr. Robin Coltrane. What do you do? What are you busy with these days? And where do your passions lie?
Hello, my name is Robin Coltrane. I'm a principal in Richland School District 1. I am the principal of W.A. Perry Middle School. I am in year 6 here. I'm in year 22 in Richland 1, year 24 in education. I've had the pleasure of being a teacher, a special education teacher, a special education consultant, an assistant principal, and principal in Richland 1. I had the great honor of being the 2020 South Carolina Middle Level Principal of the Year. A great honor that I was glad to represent middle school and represent our state. I'm passionate about all things kids, particularly children who are in high poverty schools, particularly children from low economic social backgrounds, kids from special ed. I like to tell people, I like the group of children who have a really hard struggle and have a success story to tell, and how we have been able to help those students who had the odds against them. That is one of my real passions. I am very passionate about leadership and defining the role of the principal and not having to stick to the traditional roles of the principal. I'm really passionate now because of my own journey about being able to be an effective administrator and taking that time that you need to take care of yourself. And I think COVID taught me that through this period. So I love reading, I love traveling. I have a cockapoo that I absolutely love, and I have one daughter. And we spend quite a bit of time together. And of course, my friends and my family. So those are some of the things that I enjoy.
You recently presented at the conference in Myrtle Beach to wide acclaim, might I add. So not only do people love your energy and the sharing of your journey, but the specific session that you presented on was kind of had an interesting title. And so the title of it was Principals Need Love Too. And we are living inside of a narrative right now where not only are the teachers the bad guys, but the people who lead them are the bad guys, and the people who support them are the bad guys. And I mean, I feel like it's super timely, and I'm sure that it struck a chord and struck a nerve. Why do you think that your presentation struck such a nerve?
So let me give a little background. So the day that I wrote that proposal for SCAMLE, like I was at my wit's end. I was tired, and I told somebody it's kind of like a love-hate relationship where you're dating someone and you get mad and you break up, and then you go home and you have the opportunity to think and reflect, and you're like, no, I'm going to stay in this relationship because I love it, or I love it. That's how I was feeling that particular day. And then as I sat down and I reflected, some of it was caused by me, and I needed to own that. And then I thought about how many principal friends I'd had conversations with across the state, across the country, the level of burnout, the level of giving so much of yourself and feeling like you wasn't getting anything back in return. And we were exhausted. Like, we're here to serve. And we know that's a big part of what we do. But at the same time, we needed to be good to ourselves. We needed to give ourselves permission not to be able to know everything. No one has been out this far to see with COVID. No, there was no manual, there was no guidebook, any of those things. And so we needed to give ourselves permission to also be in the trenches learning as we went along. And so it just made me think, who's checking in on principals? Who's checking in on school leaders? Who's making sure that they are okay? You know, we can go throughout the course of a day and solve 25 issues and no one has asked us, are you okay? That's kind of where the topic came from. And I was like, okay, if I'm feeling this way, there's gotta be other people who are feeling this way too. I mean, the group that we had at Scamley, it was such a intimate, organic kind of group, and it came together so well. And in that 1 hour, people were so open and they were sharing. And I was just honoring the space that they could feel free enough to be able to say what was truly in their heart.
What was your big takeaway from your time with people during your session?
They were looking for a space to be able to do that and permission to be okay to do that, and that we're all in this feeling the same kind of way. We're not alone. There are some clear boundaries and some strategies that we needed to put in place if we're going to be able to make it through, because we're not even on the other side of the pandemic yet. We're not even over it yet. And if we're going to make it through, try to give them some strategies to be able to help them navigate through it. And that was a huge takeaway, that y'all, we're not through this. We did an activity that said manage your energy, and we put on paper plates the 3 things that we are doing that we need to set some boundaries. That piece, and we got in like a soul train line where you had a person in front of you, and to your comfort level, you could share what you've written on your paper plate. And the wonderful kind of metaphoric thing about this activity was we had these paper plates that if you can bend them all you wanted, but the paper plate would not break. And so we kind of symbolized that, yes, we're going to bend, but we're not going to break. That activity was really, really, it was powerful. It was really powerful.
What was one thing that surprised you from your session you didn't expect to happen?
I had a couple of, I made this disclaimer before we joined the session, that the session was targeted towards principals and then school leaders. But I had some teachers that joined the session because I think they were interested in how they could support their leader, you know? And so I didn't want to say anything in the session to offend anybody, but there were things that only a principal or a school leader would truly understand. It was really good to see the teachers, or not necessarily an AP or a principal, but just somebody that may be in a different role in between the two, join the session. I thought that was big. You know, let me see how I can support my principal.
I had an interesting conversation with some school leaders at the conference, actually. And, you know, we're seeing some, I'm going to call them odd behaviors. I think they're trauma-informed behaviors out of our personnel, frankly. Some of the adults are really struggling.
Yeah.
And so what would you say to some of your principal friends who couldn't be at your session, who are just like, what is going on right now? You know, I would expect to see some of these trauma-informed behaviors. We've just been through a very serious collective trauma. And I'm seeing that out of students. I know how to deal with that. I know how to put supports in place. I know what to do. I know what to say. I know what to do in that moment. But when an adult professional around you is suffering, and the manifestations of that suffering are contradictory to the service they have to provide, what would you say to a principal dealing with situations like that? Because there are a lot of principals right now who are dealing with that.
We are, and I think you have to know your school, know your staff, and know when there's something that's out of character for your staff. I think if you've been doing these wellness check-ins with them, immediately when COVID happened, I started doing something called like a wellness check-in that I would send this little survey and they could check and say, hey, I'm not doing well today, I'm doing fine. I could use a project, because some people, they need to stay moving and working. And so I think you have to know them. I think you have to have relationships are so important. Relationships where they can talk with you or someone in the building, your administrators, your assistant principals. I think we have to allow a certain level of grace because we are all dealing with it. Family structures have changed now. And to the extent possible, if you could help or accommodate or maybe understand that someone may have to miss this meeting or that meeting because they have family structures, I think you have to have some level of flexibility with people. Still hold them accountable, but have some flexibility. Offer some services like we, in a couple of weeks, we are going to do a session, and we've done a couple of sessions just for our employees. Richland One did something called Richland One Exhales, and that's been great. When we don't have to be here and we can have a work from home day, it is so powerful. I don't have to have a faculty meeting today. Don't have the faculty meeting. Put it in the email. Allow people to go home. We're having something in on Monday actually, and this won't come out before then. But we're having like a spa day inside of work. So on their planning period, they can come, they can breathe. Music, just relax. Some adult coloring books. Some jewelry making, just an opportunity to breathe. And for people who may be dealing with issues that are beyond what we could do in the school day, then we offer them those services that the district has that's available to them. But I think it's really about knowing your people and catering to people and their needs on an individual basis. Like sometimes I won't send a group text, and it's tedious, but I'll send an individual text to all of my staff members. Because the group text is fine, but I'm just checking on you today. And how you doing? And what can I do for you? Something as simple as saying, hey, I'm gonna take your class for about 15, 20 minutes. You go and take a breather. Small things matter to people. They do.
Yes,
they
absolutely.
Matter.
Absolutely. Well, believe it or not, we're at the end of our time, but I want to ask my one favorite final question. What is, if you had to make a recommendation to our membership,
Okay.
Favorite book, song, TV show, what can't they afford to miss?
Listen, I'm watching something now, and I don't know if everybody's gonna get the humor of it. I'm watching Abbott Elementary, and I love it. The first 2 episodes, I was like, I don't know, but I love it because I think we have to allow some humor. I think we have to find the humor in it. And I am loving Abbott Elementary. So if you haven't checked it out, that's one.
Awesome. I love it.
I'm reading a lot of things. I gave away 2 books at the conference to 6 different people. One is Leadership is Not for Cowards. And it's a book that I think, is really good for leaders and dealing with tough situations. Just dealing with things in particular of leadership that comes along with leading, because leadership is hard. I gave away a book called 180 Days of Self-Care for Educators. And they wanted that book more than anything else. And a couple of my teachers saw it as I was packing it up and was like, ooh, are you ordering that for us? But it actually breaks the school year down into 9 weeks. And gives strategies for how to make it through each 9 weeks, because each 9 weeks comes with something different. We're at the end of the third 9 weeks, and we're about to go into crunch time.
That's correct. That is correct.
And so those are 2 books that I'm diving into right now.